Welcome back from a whole week. Good evening, everyone. My name is Charlotte Japon Ikia. As I always say, I'm a digital marketer here at Elson, and I'm here with our overall operations manager, Mr. Emmanuel Edise Boateng.
Yes, good evening to our viewers across the world, and good evening to you, Charlotte.
Thank you. Please hope you are doing well.
Yes, we are doing very well.
Yeah, I'm fine as well. I'm fine as well.
Good, good.
So last week we started a discussion on the preparations and execution of transfer deeds. And then we looked at what a deed is. So a deed is basically a document used to transfer um, real property from its legal owner to another.
Exactly.
Then yeah,
Perfect.
and then
Perfect.
we look at why is it necessary to have a deed, and then what makes up a valid deed. So
Excellent.
if you've not watched it, can you go back and watch it because today is a continuation of where we ended from last week. Yeah.
Excellent.
And
Good.
totally. So today we are continuing on the same topic as I said earlier, and then we'll be dealing with how or the processes you go through when you're registering your deed at the lands commission. The processes one goes through when registering your deed at the lands office. Yes. So our first question is so what next after having executed the land agreements? What next?
Yes, thank you very much. And then, just as you recapped the lessons we had last week with respect to the preparation and execution of a valid lead. So at this point, the assumption is that we have a valid lead. Deed rather, I mean an agreement, and sometimes we call it indenture. So once we have that one and that one is in place, what we want to do is to get it registered. Let me emphasize the point that a valid lead is an acceptable legal document as far as the relationship between the leasee and the leaseor are concerned. It is valid and is binding. But what we want to talk about this evening is about you registering it at the Lands Commission, just like Charlotte said. You getting it on public notice, making everybody understand and know that you have an interest in this land, in this form, and in this manner for this particular period. So commonly we say that your registration of a deed with the Lands Commission is giving a public notice of your interest in a parcel of land. So the registration is actually a public notice that you are giving about your interest in the land. And it's very, very important because in most transactions, if you want to get a collateral in terms of using your property as a mortgage or as anything, as a loan, collateral for any loan, there are requirements that you should have gotten it registered at the Lands Commission because that means that your ownership or your interest in the land ought to have been tested to the entire world are claiming your ownership or interest in that parcel of land and it is uncontested. That is why you have been able to register it at the Lands Commission. So people, banks, and other institutions that require collateral feel safer taking a land document that has gone through the processes of registration with the Lands Commission based on this principle. The fact that your ownership has been tested against the entire world and no objection has been raised against it, and for which matter your document has been truly certified and registered as yours. Yeah, the Lands Commission.
Yes, please.
So the
Okay.
first and foremost thing to do is to have identified the interest in the land. Let me say this even before we proceed that the processes for registering a parcel of land categorically can be in two folds. But essentially, you must understand that if you are registering a mass land of 50 acres and above, the requirements are quite different. The law sees that you have a communal responsibility when you are taking such parcels of land because it's wide and it's vast and could have impact on the communities in which they are. So the test is a little bit higher. Sometimes you are required to get communal consent, you are required to get a EPPA clearance and everything, just because it is a big parcel of land that you want to register, and they want to be certain about the purpose that you'll be using the land for and all that. So what you have to do is that you should have gotten your executed deed to the lands commission. Normally, we advise that you go yourself, because uh, there are instances where people try to do these things on behalf of people, and these days the requirement is quite strict. You cannot go and take somebody's document unless you have a power of attorney supported by the ID of the person. So the process is actually requiring that you do it yourself. So you yourself will go normally to the customer service unit. The Lands Commission has a very big customer service unit that you can go there. You go there and then you submit 3 copies of your executed deed, the original executed deed. They don't want photocopies. It should be original executed deeds. And at this point, you should have known the ownership or the kind of interest in the land existing at the Lands Commission. Because if you are buying land and you have not even done your check, because you should have done your check at the Lands Commission to ascertain the particular interest that holds that particular land you want to, if it's a stool land, if it is an individual ownership, if it is for government and all that, because all that will inform you on the actual process that you'll be required to do in line with registration. So these are the tests. So once you have your executed deed, you know the kind of ownership that you have. You just carry these original documents and then you get to the Lands Commission to begin the process.
Oh wow, thank you. That's an insightful one. An
Yeah.
insightful one. So you want to know the types of registration that can one can do. Yes, the types of registration that one can do.
Yes,
One can do.
the Lands Commission, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So the types of registration categorically could be 2 types. Could be the deed registration or the title registration. The deed registration, and these are not only tied to the choice or the 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 desire of the client, the person wanting to come and do the registration. But in Accra and some parts of Kumasi, there are places that have been able to be registered. We call them registered districts. Those are the only ones that you can actually do the title registration. The others might have to be a deed registration. So it's not about the person wanting to know what type of registration. So if you're in Accra and you want to do a deed registration, fine, but there's an opportunity for you to do a title registration as well. There are 2 different kinds of registration, but they are all done by the Lands Commission and they are all recognized under the law. So that is it. So apart from the restrictions with respect to the areas that are under title certificates that you can commence a title registration, the popular one, the most common one, the most dominant one is the deed registration. That does not take so much of time. That is not so Herculean. But the title one is sometimes also very convenient, because what that means is that somebody has already, or the owners of the land have been able to register a title certificate on the land. That means that that particular land has actually gone through a thorough process, and the title has been issued to the person.
The live something.
In fact, so the person would not have a lot of difficulty, because the names as ascertained on the certificate are the names that the person is going to refer to. But most likely, deed registration are family lands, lands that have not been properly, in terms of processes, got into their title stage. So they are just at the alludia stage, and people have not taken the processes to get it gazetted or a certificate issued in accordance to law. So that is the restriction. So we'll be looking more about the deed registration. So with the title registration, just as we told you, you should be able to accompany your executed deed with a copy of the certificate on the land that is given to you by the leaseor, given to you by the person you bought the land from. He should be able to give you an original copy. And that emphasis is that you should be able to get us an original copy. And then the original copy will be submitted together with three original executed copies of the deed to the land commission for vetting. This is what happens. So between the title registration and the deed registration is just a notch higher. What happens is that with a title registration, at the end of the process, you are issued with a title number, just like we see in recent times when people are whaling lands, and some of the lands have a title number, a title certificate number. Others don't. The reason why others don't is that maybe they might have come under a deed registration, and then the other ones to have certificates that have been, because once you are issued a certificate, you have the number accompanying it as well, which gives precision to the ownership and the title as owned on the parcel of land. So that is what happens. So you submit these documents. The last time we talked about the fact that you should have gotten a court registrar to certify it, an attorney to satisfy the commission of oaths to affirm the averments that have been made in the indenture or the deed. So once you have this document, what you are supposed to do, as I've told you, is to submit together with it a copy of the original certificate of the leaseor or the seller that has been given to you to the Lands Commission. So at this stage, it is vetted. And the first and foremost thing that is required in order to proceed is to actually do an assessment. There are instances where officials of the Lands Commission are required to visit the place or to at least cite it and know that this is the particular place that we are calling into registration. The ownership is confirmed. And most importantly, what we call the stamp duty is paid. Now, the stamp duty actually is monies that are supposed to be paid to the GRA as the tax component, the tax charge on the property that has been acquired by the buyer. So it normally ranges between 0.02 to about 1% of the value of the property. But the problem that people normally have, knowing that this is a percentage charge on the amount of the property that has been bought, people trying to do the deed and they want to reduce the amount that they brought the property for because they know that it will affect the stamp duty charge that they are supposed to pay. And some of these things will cause the document to delay because you'll be called into question, the document will be queried, you'll be called to come in. Why is this so? How did you buy it? This is the places that we have. The tax officials can say that within this enclave, we know the price of a land, we know the price of a property. This is the proper range that you are supposed to pay. So that particular aspect or that particular stage of the land registration actually takes a lot of time because people are not ready to do a proper declaration as to how much they actually bought the property. So if you're unable to do that, then it means that these officials, after doing the assessment of your document, will have to call you, vet it, object the amount that you have brought in, try to make you pay higher. But once you have settled that, then the process with the Lands Commission can begin. So typically, the payment of the stamp duty is a function of it. It qualifies you for attention with the Lands Commission, but typically it is a tax component that the person is paying to the Ghana Revenue Authority. But they are supposed to make sure that before they touch your document, before they process your document for that due registration, you have complied with the law, with the Stamp Tax Act, which requires you to have paid that tax burden of the amount that you have bought the property for. So once that one is certified and you are proven to have paid the money that is due and clearance is given, that is where actually the Lands Commission starts its job by making sure that it vets the documents that you have submitted. So normally, if it is a title certificate, that is why it gives it a lot of precision, because if it's a title certificate, obviously the interest has been cemented. It is for this person with this title number. The folder is there. References to those lands are quite easier. That is why when you are buying land and the person says that this is a title land, the price of the land goes higher because it is a land that has gone beyond any possible contention, any possible dispute in terms of the interest that is vested in the land. When the certificate is issued, it's normally difficult for anybody. But when it is just a land in ownership in trust, sometimes the person who is supposed to have been registered there has died, a successor has come, there are people contesting the legitimacy of the successor, the family is divided over the ownership of the land, and all these things will affect the speedy registration of your land. And that is why you need to have vetted the particular ownership, the current status of the land at the Lands Commission, and then you vet with that. So that is what we do at Elsin, that the land that we require to sell to people, we have actually ascertained the status of those lands with the Lands Commission, knowing that there are no possible hindrances to people affirming absolute ownership. So that if you want to register your interest in the land, you don't get these kinds of impairments as we are talking about. There's absolute certainty as to the ownership and then the validity of the transfer that has been so made for you in the deed. And when these things are done properly, and the issues of assenting and everything are very, very important. Last, we explained that you need to understand this, that when your vendor, the person selling the land to you, is not somebody who can read and write, there is a way that the document ought to be prepared. There should be evidence on your deed showing that the person has been taught through the agreement and the person understands exactly what the person is doing for you. And some of these things will have also come up because the moment the officials background check and they know that this person is not somebody who can even read and write, and yet has seen to have been affirmed and assigned and everything, and it's not like that, your document can also be queried in that instance. A registrar can query you because there should be proof that you've explained the thing to the person's understanding before doing it. But you know, the scenarios is sometimes overturned. In Ghana here, most often it is the buyer who goes ahead to do his documentation and not the seller doing the documentation for the person. So he goes about writing anything and sends it to the owner because the owner has received money, sign here and sign there and send it. And it gives you problems at the end of the day because normally it is the person that holds the interest that ought to lead the process in transferring these things to your name, because it makes it helps the process to get beyond any realm of doubt or any realm of dispute. Because there have been instances where people have registered lands that have gone beyond the lands that they were earmarked to, because the people who sold the land to them especially did not monitor the process. So once he just does a site plan and bring it, they sign, and then the site plan might have exceeded the boundaries of the land as given to the person in sale. So a lot of these things have happened. People have built in old places, stayed there. The moment you want to go and buy, you hear that the land that you are occupying in, half of it, a quarter of it is in another registration. And these are some of the things that actually come. So these are the two main types of registration as we have it. The deed registration, which is very common because of our land tenure system. The processes are still going on. And I'm sure Currently, there are a little more registered districts around the country that you can do that. But those are the places that we have it now. Accra and some central parts of Kumasi, like Edum, where there are certificates that have been issued with respect to that. So, in terms of doing registration, you can go to the extent of doing at least a title registration in that. So these are the two main categories of registration that one can do with the Lands Commission in plain words. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Emmanuel. Thank you so much. So, we've listened to a lot, and then we want to ask the basic requirements of a duty stamp before the commencement of a registration in the Lands Commission. We want to know what are the duties before the commencement in the registration of the Lands Commission.
Yeah, the stamp duty. You mean the stamp duty? So the stamp duty is like a tax you pay. Yes, you pay a tax like a property acquisition tax. So it's something that has been there. So we refer to it as a Stamp Duty Act. It's an act that has been passed that you are supposed to pay this particular amount of money to get your deed registered, to get your agreement in its formal standing. So it is something that is like a statutory payment, just like the way we pay income tax and we pay it's a requirement by law that you make that payment. And that I say that is between like 0.002 to 1%, depending on the commercial value of the land. And then that one is determined by the officials of the GRA. So that's how it is supposed to be. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So,
Yeah.
what are the processes the stamp duty has to be paid? How are the
Yeah.
processes the stamp duty has to be paid?
Yeah, so the essentially what I said was that you submit your documents for vetting at the customer service unit of the Lands Commission. So immediately you submit your documents as part of the duties of the customer service, because your documents are going to be vetted. They are going to certify that you've actually submitted 3 copies of your indenture with them, your deed with them actually, and then it is accompanied by the original certificate. That is in the instance that the land you are buying is already a titled land already. You must accompany it with the original certificate, and all the documents that you submit to them ought to be in their original state. They shouldn't be photocopies. So once you give it to the customer service unit, it is at that point that they vet. It is at that point that they examine the document and then call you to tell you that this is the amount of stamp duty that you're supposed to pay. Now, it will not be in contention because it's something that you can predict, it's something you can know. But what happens most of the times is that people underestimate the amount they have bought properties because they know it implies on the amount of stamp duty that they will pay. And yes, we all want money for government. So nobody is going to let you. You tell us you buy a land at cantonment for 10,000, a plot of land at cantonment for 10,000. Obviously, it's not possible. A plot of land at cantonment should be around $500,000 or something like that. So they know it. I mean, everybody knows that. So this assessment by law is supposed to be submitted to the regional boss of the Lands Commission. So if you are in Eastern region, you submit it to Koforidua, the regional lands officer. If you are in Tamale, if you are in Bolga, if you're in Sunyani, if you're in Kumasi, you submit it to them. So they are supposed to vet it. And once they vet it, they bring out an amount. You have the right to contest it if you feel it is not appropriate. But they reserve the right to so determine the amount that you have to pay. And I'm saying that this function has been mixed up with the land registration process, but in actual fact, it is not part of it. It is something you pay to start, and you are not paying for this is not the amount you pay for registration. No, this is the amount you pay as a tax component, a tax burden on the land that you have acquired. So we've not talked about registration fee yet. Registration fee is an entirely different matter. You pay for registration fee, and registration fee has different components. And if you want us to go there, you pay for the registration fee, the administrative, the inspection, because I talked about the fact that in the processes of registration, sometimes inspection will have to be done. At a point, notices will have to be filed. there must be some public notices about you wanting to declare or hold permanent interest in a parcel of land. It should be published in the newspapers, and all those kinds of things that they are going to do obviously has financial implications. And you, as the person registering the land, essentially will have to pay that. It is not much. I think it is something reasonable. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. So, what else do we expect in the processes? What else? Is there anything we should expect during the
Yes.
processes?
Yes, of course, you need to expect objections, especially if you have not done your work well. In this part of our world where people acquire lands, they take their time to develop it over years. And when they are very, very comfortable in their houses or wanting to will it to somebody forever or even sell it to recover some money, that is where they think about going to register. You see the point. So the person might have initially conducted a search into the appropriate interest that is being held. So you might have bought it from the right person, but have not actually taken the steps to go and do the registration. And it happens a lot in Accra here because somebody might be holding a stool in trust, and then at another day you hear that there's a judgment that has been given to another faction, and the faction will now be going to house and property by property to take new amounts of money, if you want to. And it becomes something. I don't know whether in this instance you are applying the law retrospectively, which the law principle does not allow that. Once something has been done, but once something that has been done has been declared illegal, it means that it is as good as not done at all. So the person can still come back and take them up, because if the matter is in court and then the person says that I'm the chief and sells the thing in the convenience of occupying the palace to you, and then at the end of the case, it is so determined that the other side who was not in the palace is actually the valid candidate for the stool, the person has every lawful right to come and resell the land back to you. And I think it makes sense, because when you do anything illegal, it is as good as nothing. Anything that is void is actually nothing. So it's not like they're trying to. So once you get the land, you make sure that you proceed to register your interest in the land. Very, very important, because conditions and times will change. And when conditions and times change, these objections will come through, because that is where, at the point, the person that inherited from the person that sold this thing to you has gone ahead to do maybe a certificate on the land, and you are registering it like a deed. And if you are registering it like a deed, it will not go through, because it is at the stage of a certificate and requires you to tender in the original copies of the certificate, which you don't have maybe at that time. So these are some of the things. So objections are bound to come. It is not for nothing that they are going to publish it in the newspapers for a number of days, because they are inviting people to express their opposition. So failure for someone to express his position, in law we say that the person has acquiesced, the person has stood by. So equity law says that equity aids the vigilant, not the indolent. Equity aids the vigilant, not the indolent. So if you become indolent, you are not minded, you don't read, you don't see notices, they've pasted something on your land, you don't care about what has been pasted on your land, and in future you come back and say that I'm the rightful owner and that, the law will not be on your side. Equity will not be on your side. So once they are doing all these things, what it shows that somebody can object to you holding that interest. Because as for the executed deed, it's between you and another person who is claiming ownership of the land. It's valid, and it will remain valid up till the time that the land is not in contention. Any time that contention, in law, we say that it is a voidable contract. It's a voidable contract not because it's void from the beginning, but it will be void if a valid opposition comes against it. So it's a valid contract, but it's voidable anyway. So these are some of the things that you should expect. You should expect them to call you to say that you have underestimated your land and you've not paid the appropriate this thing, you should call them to say that your drawings are not appropriate. That is if you don't contract the right person to do the site plan for you, because now your site plan should come with a barcode. So if you don't do a DCI plan and you don't do it very well, and they are reading the barcode at the back and it's not reading, you'll be called in to come and amend that. So in the process of it, these are some of the call-ups that you are going to get depending on how you work on your document. So that is why it's important that in this kind of journey, you need somebody that has charted the waters before, and then the person will guide you, because you going back to repeat a whole process of going to do a new digital site plan because it does not meet the yardstick of the lands commission. It's also financial implications, delays, time wasting, and all that, and could be very frustrating. So these are some of the few objections that we get. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you. What are the essence of this whole processes? Is there an essence and the need for the registration of the interest with the Lands Commission? Essence
Fantastic.
of this.
Yeah, so I'm sure our viewers might have caught the clips already. We have super viewers because the importance has just been intertwined in our discussion already. We've told you that your deed agreement as executed is a valid document, but what you are now going to say is that the validity has been tested against the world, any objection of the world. That is why we do some of these things: notices of marriage, notices of ownership, and everything. So your deed has gone through the waters, and what more joy will you have knowing that your deed agreement is just not between you and some person occupying a stool or some family head, but has actually stood a national test, a national public test that has won a clean sheet, that has passed the verdict as something that you hold. I mean, it makes it absolute, it makes it complete in a sense, it makes it uncontested. And when you are using it for anything like a collateral, it is acceptable. It has gone beyond doubt and all that. So that is essentially it. Apart from that, you also be doing yourself a lot of good, because you'll be moving yourself from the realms of family and chieftaincy disputes. Because once you get into the realms of the lands commission, you have absolved yourself from any possible litigation, any possible disagreement that will come before or after your acquisition of the land from your original owners. So if the family decide to fight after you have registered your land, if they decide to depose the family head, if they decide to depose the chief, if somebody decides to inherit a different person with a different mentality, because you have been able to register your land or your interest in the land at the lands commission, you are beyond those issues of contestation, and that makes it safer. So it gives you a sense of security, a sense of trust, and a sense of ownership in effect. And then it gives you some form of perpetuity in the ownership, because without which you cannot do that. It gives you absolute T, because you can now also transfer it, because anytime you have not done it, selling it means that you have to go back to the original owner for the original owner to issue another agreement with the other person. That is what it means. Because once you have not executed your deed, you do not have yes, you can have the right to do a sublease agreement on the remaining lease period to another person. But if the person tries to go and register with the lands commission, you have to resort to the original owner. It is the original owner's agreement that can suffice with the lands commission. That is if you have not registered. So these and many other benefits are the reasons why you ought to have your land properly registered with the lands commission. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much. So we want to know what is Elson's client support in this respect? What are Elson's client support in this essence of this
Fantastic,
conversation?
fantastic. And I'm sure you will be able to add some to it. Viewers that are listening to us, this is a very important thing. Registering your document Making sure that you have a valid deed agreement is very, very important. Possession has become a vital thing. In law, we say possession is 9 points. But when you have the documents, it is also, it adds credence to your possession because you can be on a land. People have evicted from lands, people have had issues and all that. So if you have your land and you have the proper documentations covering it, it helps you today and also protects your future. Do it the right way. And in doing it the right way, that is why we are saying that get us involved right from day one. Most people will run to Elsins when they start getting problems or eviction notices from their landlords or people that are contesting their land. Mostly, it is so difficult to fight from that time. But the moment you decide to acquire land, we are available to help you. We ascertain the true status of the land and we advise you on how to go about it. Always, I say that there are very different ways of dealing with land. If it's a family land, you know that you should be dealing with the family head and then the principal elders of the land. If it is a stool land, it means that you should be dealing with the chief and then the principal elders of the land. If it is an individual land and it is a matrimonial property, you should be dealing with the couples together because there ought to be a consent letter. So these are technicalities that must begin right from day one. And that is what Elson is there to do for you. You come, you consult us, we give you our professional advice, we give you our professional clearance with respect to the ideas you want to do, and we complement you. We take the hustle off you, we take the technicalities of you, and then you are in a joyous ride to the acquisition of your property. Stress free and with just little cash, you are taking off the stress. I know Charlotte will add more. So that is what we are there for you 24/7. And this is a company that believes in the time differences of our global environment. So we do not believe that we are working in Ghana. So from 8 to 5. Our numbers are very active. And for viewers that are watching us that have contacted on WhatsApp, on Facebook, they can attest to how prompt we respond to their requests. So you can anytime send us a message. You can call us, you can WhatsApp us, you can tweet at us, you can make a comment on our Facebook page, and I'm sure we will get back to you and you'll be happy you did. Right.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Today's section has been insightful. You said this has already marketed my this one for me already. Yes,
Great,
as usual.
great, great. And for those who have properties that they've not secured the property, it's very, very important that at this point you start making steps to get it secured. So you might have acquired a property already. You want us to help you do the registration and assessment and everything. We will be able to help you do that. Or you are in the process of registering, but the back and forth has been so herculeous to you. The objections that I'm talking about you are facing, and you don't know how to go about it. We can come in and then do proper representation for you, so that we can clear all the queries on your document, so that you can proceed with your registration. So we do all these things. We don't do them alone. We do them with the most competent and efficient hands. So be rest assured. You come in and then it's a one-stop shop. Everything will be sorted out. Trust that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You said this for your time and then your
Yeah, yeah,
wonderful insight you shared for us. I
great.
would also want to thank our audience as well.
Yeah,
Those who are
yeah,
watching, those who are yet to watch, and those who
yeah,
have started watching, and those who are with us already. We
yeah,
say thank you. Without you, we cannot do have this section. We cannot have come on. So
yeah.
kindly follow us on all our social media platforms. Facebook, we are Elson's Company Limited, and then YouTube, we are Elson's UT. And then
Thanks.
even LinkedIn, we are there. We are on
Yeah,
Instagram and you're on Twitter as well. Elson's Company Limited. Follow us, and then how you get the first property, you get the first information about what is going on with Elson's and every day, each and every day. Yes. Thank you for having us. And then today ends our section. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. And then catch you same time next week. Have a good evening to all wonderful viewers. Bye.
Bye.